And we are live. Episode 52. Hi, Kira.
Hi Jeff, how are you?
I'm all right. How you been?
I've been well. Happy January 21st, 2020.
2021.
I mean 2021.
2021. All right.
I enjoyed yesterday, so maybe we could just do it again.
But we're back. Uh, we are just, to everybody out there, it's just so much fun. LA to Atlanta, chatting every week about everything happening in this crazy world and getting perspectives, hearing from people. There certainly has been a lot to talk about. There hasn't been a lack of material given everything that's happening these days, has there? I mean, there's certainly plenty to discuss. Like
Well,
information.
I think 2020 was such a off year. I mean, everyone was so consumed with COVID for rightly so, and I think we're making up for it this year
Yeah,
by it's like a makeup time of just colossal changes of like epic proportions, you know?
yeah, yeah. I think it kind of just everything that happened, just so much, it kind of threw people.
Yeah.
Now we're just like trying to come down from it. But one thing that because we've had, there's been a virus and everything going on, and we're also, because we're all home, we're on social media a lot more, and we're watching news a lot more, and it really makes people look at their screens even more than they were prior. Um, and it can be hard to get away from it. Or do you ever? I mean, and anyone out there, like, do you, when you're sitting on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, like, do you have a point where you just put the phone down and run out? Do you use timers? Like, do you have habits to get away? Are there things that you do to get away from that? Like, do you struggle with that at all, Kira?
I've gotten a lot better with it, though I do have three screens going on, usually all at the same time.
Yeah,
So I have my computer while that I'm working on, and then I'll have my phone, and then I usually have background noise from like a TV show or movie that's like brought down low, but I need to have like a little bit of, it can't be dead silence in here while I work, you
yeah,
know? And I've actually started to do timers on my phone. And it's not so much breaks from the news or Twitter or, any of the other jokers out there. But it's more about resting my eyes because I stare at a screen for like 15 hours a day.
yeah.
So the blue light is really intense. And I wear the glasses, I have blue light glasses, I have a blue light um, screen protector, which helps a ton, but I have to take a break and like go walk the dogs or like get up and move and like go outside, you know, something to jog me out of like the vortex that is technology.
I wonder how much the pandemic has affected um, vision. I wonder how much it's really affected. Like, I've noticed my vision has gotten a little worse from it. I know it's just from that screen time. Even when I go to bed with the phone at night, it that light, it just becomes too much. And I know that you have to. It's good that to get up and walk around. I need to do that more as well. But yeah, and just with all the social media and everything, one thing we were talking about is, do people get to? There's some people that get to a point where, when they're posting, they actually bring in like social media, like there's social media managers apparently, right? There's social media managers out there. Now, my take, Kira and I were discussing this, recently. When you get, do you get to a point, do you think celebrities and just really like high profile people, people that are running companies, how much of them are you still using a social media manager versus posting themselves? Because my take on it is, I understand hiring someone for analytics and to know all that, but this is just like my personal thing. I think we've mentioned this once before. Like, I like posting myself and like responding to people on Twitter and like doing that myself. But are there celebrities that are having a social media manager post for them still? Because that seems like 10 years ago. Like, I don't, are people, it just seems really inauthentic to me to have someone learn your voice. I don't doubt that they're doing it, but I wouldn't, like, at least where I sit right now, I wouldn't want somebody to, because I would feel inauthentic. Is it happening?
Here's the thing. Yeah, of course. I mean, do you think Oprah really submits Instagram, stories and posts
Right.
every single? She doesn't have time for that. When you're running an enterprise, or you get to a point where you have, let's say, 1 million followers, whatever platform you're on. Do you know how many messages and opportunities that are coming in, and book deals and that are just coming into your messages? Like, you wouldn't have the time to sit there and go through it all. That you just don't. There's not enough time in a day, and then build your enterprise. I mean, unless your enterprise consists of sitting on Twitter for 15 hours a day and just doing Twitter. But people that are at that caliber, who are writers or journalists, or a little higher amongst the Oprahs of the world, I'd say she sometimes posts maybe once a month herself, but the rest of it is someone that learns her voice, for
See,
sure.
yeah, see an example like Oprah, I can see that, like, her having someone hired. I feel like it's case by case, because then I see like Elon Musk and I see him tweeting at 3 in the morning, talking about eating French fries or something, and it's clearly Elon Musk. Like, it's
Right.
clearly like him interacting on Twitter. Like, you can kind of tell, but like an Instagram post with like a quote, or like, I've seen Oprah's Instagram and it's just very well, illustrated. It's well done. It's well, like, you can tell it's professionally done, and I can see how she would have help with that. Like, I think it's case by case. I think you can kind of look at them and tell something, right? Like,
And here's the thing: there's celebrities like A-list actors that don't even own phones. Like Vince Vaughn doesn't own a phone.
at all.
No.
No, really. I heard of someone else recently.
Yeah, so they don't even, do you know what I mean? There's celebrities that will be interviewed and they're like, I've never Googled myself. I don't have email. I mean, there's people
Yeah,
that
yeah,
really are not part of the world, you know?
yeah.
Um, they just have their PR team like handle out. They don't necessarily, and to your point, I think it's case by case. Like, for example, Elon Musk is not the brand,
Right, right.
right? Oprah is the brand.
It's a brand. Yeah, it's, if it's your
So she
brand.
right. So he'll talk about eating French fries at 4 a.m. because he's just talking from a personal level. Oprah has to have someone like she has to replicate herself in order, because she is the brand. She,
Yeah,
like Kim Kardashian, Kylie, all of them, they don't they don't post themselves. I mean, they do sometimes, but they also have a full team that does it as well. They
right.
have other shit.
But like, yeah, okay. So see, this is an interesting conversation, because like I can see that with like Kylie, what's her name? Kylie.
Kylie,
I can see that,
Hollywood.
but there's posts though. I mean, Chrissy Teigen, when she's tweeting, it's clearly her. Like,
Right.
I
Right.
mean, like, uh, and Kanye's tweets are clearly him when he's going
Right.
off or whatever he's doing. So I think we're both kind of right in a way, like, as far as them doing it themselves and then also hiring people, because I think it's both of that's happening. you know?
Yeah, and it's I think it's up to the person of how much and their workload. Like Gary V can't post as much as he does. He's doing all kinds of 8 million things in a day, you know?
Right.
So, but I think it also has to do with creative control.
Hmm.
There will be those type A personalities who don't want someone coming in and handling their account because they don't want them talking as they would, because they'll never be quite as authentic as the real human being. So
Right.
I'm guaranteed there's like the Madonnas of the world that are a little bit more controlling. Like when she gets her hair cut, she makes sure that they pick up all the hair pieces and she keeps all the like all the clippings.
Are you
You know,
serious?
just yeah, I'm serious. So like, you know, celebrities are a little off when it comes to stuff. So I
Wow.
guarantee she doesn't let some 20-year-old out of college pretend that it's Madonna posting. You know what I mean? It's just like a control freak kind of stuff.
Yeah, I also see why, at least, I don't know. I think especially Instagram hashtags and stuff like they help with that type of thing. Um, so I can see that, I guess. I think it depends how. I think your point about the brand is part of it. Like if it's the brand, that's fine because it's more of like you're like Chevy truck, you know. You can hire somebody to do those posts. But if your brand
Yeah.
is kind of more personal, Twitter related, it tends to be more you. So I think it's
Yeah.
interesting just seeing that. You don't see people talk about that a lot. That sometimes it is the real person, sometimes not. Um, but part of like what we do, like with this podcast and then interacting with people and such, like I mean, I would never have anybody do the interacting on Twitter I do just because it has to be me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because
I'm the same. Like I
place
wouldn't
that.
be able to hire someone to be the voice of Kate for Kira. Like that doesn't they
Right.
wouldn't be able to know it's a, you know what I mean? Because just so it's just a very different voice that they wouldn't be able to capture.
Yeah.
Um, responses, the way I talk to people or whatever, you know, or what I post. Oh my God. Can you imagine me um hiring someone to post for me? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, just wouldn't be like, here, do
You
this shot, you know?
because you want it to be. It has to have a lot of you authentically in it, right? Like it has to be
Yeah.
you. Yeah, I get that. So that's interesting. So yeah, just we wanted to lead off today, kind of discussing that. It is an interesting side note, and with everything going on, we had the. It's been a big week. Had the inauguration. Um, 3 weeks in January, we've had an insurrection followed by an inauguration. Oh no, we had an insurrection followed by an impeachment followed by an inauguration. So we've done
Yes.
the three I's, as people have been saying, and um, I think now people can really, it's interesting that Trump is not on social media anymore because now you have Biden in the White House. Think if he was still on it, like Brevin, like what would he be saying now with Biden now in the White House? He would
Right.
be stirring things up if they didn't
Well,
kick him
even
out.
if he wasn't president, that's the thing. Like, even if he wasn't president,
Yeah,
he'd still be, I mean, he would be raging all, I forgot what it was. I think I read the study that I think the Washington Post did that 75% of misleading and misinformation went down
yeah,
since he's been kicked off Twitter. I mean, it's just like all of a sudden it got really quiet and kind of just like, we can now sweat just the small stuff and not like really big scary stuff that he was, you know, trying to spread.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's, man, I think that's he's breath of fresh air for a lot of because I know that a lot of Trump supporters out there. There's a lot of Biden supporters out there, but it's at the point where um, I don't know. People needed to rest their brain,
Yeah.
all of the noise. And so now you've got Joe Biden was uh, inaugurated yesterday. The great ceremony. Uh, gave his farewell speech, and it's going to be really interesting to see how he. I know he's done a lot of rollbacks on stuff that he had done. Inauguration, COVID, obviously, Paris, is it the Paris Court, Paris Act? Get back in that Paris Agreement. Got back in that. They're talking about the Iran deal, and one thing that I think needs to be talked about that people aren't saying as much is I'm very curious as time goes on how the media interacts with Biden. And you saw, I'm always going to point that out. You saw the one post today that I tweeted about, that he snapped at whoever about something. It was claiming that he snapped with the "oh man" or the "come on man" or the whatever. Now that wasn't the. I think it was Curtis Houck that tweeted it that way. They were all tweeting it around. I mean, NBC was tweeting it, like a lot of different media people were tweeting it around and saying that. That's going to continue, and whether you people think that it's perceive it as Biden snapping, which I didn't think it was that dramatic,
Yeah.
or whether they perceive it as the media exaggerating something, is going to be left open to the public. But that's going to continue because those type of tweets and that type of stuff gets attention and it gains people's perceiving. And I think that it's, last time I'm saying this, I think it's really interesting because I think that it's different than it was 12 years ago during Obama, because we didn't have, things weren't so cemented around this social media and media business model of conflict and things erupting. And a lot of media stuff, they need that, like, to, the public wants it, and it also keeps them in business. So it creates an interesting scenario for Joe Biden, who I think is a very, what I've seen, kind, nice guy. But I saw you go back at the Curtis Houck guy, but that is going to continue, whether he's guilty or not, because I think they need to stir things up. They need to stir
Yes.
things up, and it's just,
But it's kind of unfortunate when you think about it. You wish you could go back to like the Walter Cronkite days where it was just, here's the news. There's no inflection of tone. It's just, it's so in the middle
yeah.
that it's just plain facts, and now you have to look at everything with a critical eye. Oh my God, you have to use your brain, and unfortunately, social media has caused us, and we've talked about this before, to get really lazy. And we just read the headline. We're like, oh, Biden already snapped at a news reporter, and you watch it and you're like, no, he didn't. I mean, but of course, the media is going to continue to push this drama, like we've got to create drama because it can't be a slow news day ever. They have to create news or they won't be in business. And
Well, that's right.
that's one thing, they're not a nonprofit. They are a for-profit, and there's nothing wrong with the media. It's just that I think they get a lot of hate, but it's like, they only get hate because people aren't using their brains to, delineate between if it's drama pushed or is it, weed through the facts. I mean, it's, reading comprehension 101. It's like, I don't know, use the brain a little bit,
Yeah, yeah. But I think there's a kind of level above what's happening with the tweets, with the media that we need to get to, where when that tweet is sent or when it's said, um, all of the all of the people that are more pro Biden are gonna obviously say he didn't snap. The anti-Biden people are gonna like jump on it though. Like look at that jerk. Like look what he's doing. He's like, and there needs to be an awareness above it where somebody's saying, okay, let's tweet this video. Now let's look at this objective. Like and analyze what he's doing to try to help people, because if you're naturally anti-Biden bias, you're going to perceive that way. But nobody's talking about the awareness of what we're perceiving with each tweet and each interaction.
I think you're right. And
it's
actually,
just there.
that's an excellent point, because I think we almost have to educate or re-educate people on how to do that.
Yeah. On bias. It's a bias thing.
Correct. How to be objective, not subjective.
Right.
And to look at it as a matter of fact and not so much emotion. Like what I've noticed over the past 4 years, and it's continuing. And I don't know if you had a chance to watch Michael Moore's Facebook Live, but he kind of touched on it as well. In that, and if no one's seen it, I recommend it because it's pretty powerful stuff. I actually sent it to my mom, and she's like, I couldn't watch it. It's so scary to me. I'm like, okay. I mean, not supposed to be scary. It's just someone's point of view, and he has a very valid point of view. Nevertheless, I think it's all about trying to educate or re-educate people about how to deal with their emotions.
Yeah.
And what it comes down to is emotional maturity. So as adults, we're considered adults at 18, which that's a arbitrary. That was pulled out of the thin air and said, okay, adults are 18. That's not really maturity when it comes to emotional, mental, all of that stuff, and it's just so men could go off to war.
Yeah.
So 18 is not equaling emotional maturity. Neither is 30, and neither is 40. For men specifically in their brains do not mature emotionally like at their peak until they're 42. So, I think there almost needs to be more of an education around how to deal with the world around you and the things that you can control and the things you can't control, and what to do about that stress. Because I'm seeing, and I think I sent it to you, and I think I posted on my Facebook, of the woman having literally a nervous breakdown about Biden's inauguration. And it's just like, I mean, the emotions are way taking over people's lives,
Yeah. I think that the problem is that emotions are like attached to people, have their emotions attached to the stuff with politics, world, and everything that's happening around us. They very much have, the ego and emotions play in, and that creates bias. And most people, I find, don't really know or even aren't even necessarily aware of how biased they are with things,
Right.
how prone they are to bias. And I think there needs to be something that's just, we had some type of a system or somebody that could take things that are debated, and you kind of see it with people debunking things, but sometimes the debunkers are biased. So sometimes they're debunking that's something that shouldn't be debunked, or they're like debunking in the wrong way. So if there was some type of a way to take these situations and be able to look at them in the most subjective way, where you can kind of see things from all sides and help people see the different angles so that then they can choose for themselves what to think. The problem is if you only give them this situation and they don't know about other sides of things, they don't see the full spectrum of awareness to even make the decision of if they might be against it. Like, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? And so I think we need to get to that level of awareness. And I think that that will ultimately happen. I think we need a framework for it. I think that there has to be like a panel of aware people that um, see what's happening with that. And um, I think that's going to take time. Like you mentioned the Michael Moore thing and such. Yeah, I mean his emotions are playing in, and he's obviously very that's how he feels. I mean he's very anti worried about the everything that he was talking about in that. I'm a person where I don't really fear that stuff. As we've discussed, I'm not that way. Um, you have people on one side fearing, uh, gosh, there's all sorts of stuff like camps and Trump taking over and building an army, and none of that is looks real to me. And then you have the other people on the other side saying, worried about communist China coming in, and they're already involved, and both don't seem real to me. And but I watch people struggle with it on both sides, and I just am like, just a lot to process because it doesn't really affect me that way. I mean, I'm just like Biden and Harris are just two, they're Democrat leaders who are trying to do their best for their country, and Trump did his thing. Now just he's gonna go to the golf course, and people are Americans living their thing, and we create these situations, Kira, and a lot of that stuff is not real. In my, it's just stuff that people have created in their minds,
Yeah,
and
of
it
course,
happened.
our brains are very powerful.
Yeah.
We can create all kinds of the most amazing things. We can invent the most amazing things. We can retrain our brain to do things. We can tell our body what to do based on what the brain, actively, consciously. I mean, it's really quite an incredible thing that we have. We don't really appreciate it as well as we should, but um, our imagination takes hold and we create these there's no other word to say it but delusions, and they become very real for people. Their reality is that Biden is the devil and that Trump needs to save us from him, and
Mm-hmm.
that, to me, it's like bordering on mental instability, because you've lost all sense of reality, and you've now read so much about something, believed it so much that you've trained your brain to believe it. So you're
Yeah.
believing your bullshit that you're reading. And that's what's caused this, like I can't talk to family members. I haven't talked to my family members since the insurrection, or the riots or the insurrection, because
Really.
I just can't. I just can't. Like it's like I see that the grass is green and they see that the grass is purple.
Yeah.
And no matter, I mean, no matter, some people are just too far gone into their own belief system that it's not worth the pain and aggravation and energy to, like, you know help them, see maybe a different perspective. They've already taken their past experiences, and bottled them all into one and made their beliefs, like we all do. And who am I to change someone's belief? If they want to believe that the grass is purple, have at it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? personally can't allow that to infect my brain.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's up to us in terms of, and we've talked about this, of like deciding what information you want to ingest. Because everything you around you, I'm not talking social media or news, I'm talking about everything. The people that you allow in your circle, the people that you hang out online, whatever it is, it's your brain is a computer and you're feeding it programs constantly. And if you feed it the same program constantly, it'll create literal brain patterns that will get cemented in there, you
Right.
know? And actually, I can't be around anything that is outside of what I want, my perspective. You know, like I don't want to consider that the grass is purple. That's just not for me. And if that means I have to cut people out, then so be it. You know what I mean? It's just my own mental health is more important than satisfying or having some kind of obligation to be around people who will, you know, who I'll absorb naturally and unconsciously their opinions, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
And I
Interesting.
think a lot of people are dealing with that. You know, I know there's a lot of Facebook groups that have come out of like, I have family members in that are believe in Q. How do I, you know, how do I deal with this? You know, there's a lot, there's like group helps, you know, or help groups that are like, I don't know what to do. Do I disown this person? Do I, you know, and I think it's on a very personal level and what you feel comfortable with, you
Yeah.
know, but that's happening a lot right now that people have that one or two or three people in their family that's fringe that are like think the world is flat and you're like I like can't go there, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it's I think that yeah, you know, each person sees, I mean, perception's a tricky thing, and I think that people see, you know, people see what they want to see in things, and you know, it's often, yeah, it's what you said, it's how they're raised, what they're grown up around, what their belief systems are, how they're seeing, and you know, it's been that way for a very long time, and I'm curious um how, you know, where things go with all of that from here. And I think that social media and the web has accelerated that, and I think that in a way, you know, all of Trump's, for all of his the tweeting and everything that he did, just kind of lighting people up, it kind of, you know, we all kind of are now more aware of how crazy it is because of Trump's, you know,
Right.
tweets and
Yeah.
such. You know, if there's one big thing that he did, it's that through that chaos, it made us people realize, you know, social media is really winding us up. Um, and how do we rectify that so that people can have peace of mind so that that doesn't continue? You know? And I think that people need to have a voice and things need to be transparent. And somebody was saying today, they're saying, like, you know, well, if you create some system, it's going to limit free speech. No, no, that's not, like, I'm talking about be more transparent in the system. When somebody says something like a tweet that we talked about earlier, so that people can see the full awareness, it's not limiting information, it's actually making information more accessible to everyone so that they don't get caught in bias, just so that they can see the full spectrum of things. People bias, and that's created because people are so programmed to see one side that then when they see a different angle of light, it's too much for them to take. And I think that's what we need to work on, is just growing that awareness. I see Lee and Michael and Adam are in here.
Hi
um,
guys.
Hi everyone. Lee says people can believe what they want to believe, but as long as they keep it to themselves and not try to force you believe what they believe, then that's fine. That's right.
Right.
You know, I tweeted this week. I tweeted, you know, Brian Stelter on CNN has a show. I think it's Reliable Sources is the name, and I said it's important people see see his show, even if you disagree with it. You should see it. And I believe you should see the shows on the other networks too. I'm a believer in that. If people don't like it, that's too bad. That's like who I am. Because I'm a believer in the freedom of other opinions. And then if you don't agree with those opinions, that's fine. Like, but where it gets dangerous is when you have, as long as they're not dangerous or violent or threatening, that's a different thing. I'm just talking about awareness of what people are saying. Does that make sense? You understand what I'm saying there? Like,
Absolutely. But, I think, Geoff, I think it's almost like giving everyone the benefit of the doubt that they're able to make that distinction.
really?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, and it doesn't come down to intelligence so much as it comes down to critical thinking and awareness. And everyone evolves differently and at a different pace. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you shouldn't judge people that don't understand certain things because they're not on your level and you're not on their level. And that's completely fine. However, I think we're giving way too much credit to people to be able to watch Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon on, you know what I mean? And be able to say,
I can do
okay,
both. I love it.
and so can I. And I enjoy it.
Is it a
Tucker
lot
gets
for people to take? What is it? I'm curious.
too much because they want to just stick with the crew that they're used to, that it's an echo chamber. They love their echo chamber.
It's
And they don't want
tribalism.
It is. And they don't want someone knocking on the door and saying, hey, maybe think of it this way, because that takes work. And that means you can't be sloppy or lazy. And let's be honest, most Americans kind of sloppy and lazy. You know what I mean? It's in this feed me kind of nation that we have. No offense to anyone out there. I'm just saying overall, in general, I think we could all agree Americans are slightly on the lazier side as it pertains to using critical thinking.
Yeah.
Like, for example, other countries look at us and are like, how on earth could you guys believe in this? It's just it's different here in this country than it is in other countries where they've had more of a history and they've learned from their history what to do and what not to do. We are still a very young country in comparison, and we have a lot of growing up to do.
Yeah.
And we're learning from our mistakes, and we're learning from, this is not the first time a capital's been rioted and almost thrown. Look at every other country. I mean, they're probably looking at us like, yeah, welcome to when we were in like the 9th century. I mean, it's not, to us, we're like, oh my God, this is like, catastrophe. But every other country is like, yo, we've had our capitals mobbed and burned down so many times. You guys just weren't around yet for that. So we're just children growing up, basically, when it comes to how to think through certain things and experiences. And it can be difficult for those that are a little bit more evolved, because we're like, why can't you watch CNN and Fox News and make a clear distinction of the two and then make your own decision?
What is it?
Because
Why can't they? What's the?
They're not evolved enough. And I don't mean that from like a biological standpoint. I just mean that from like, life experiences and where they're at in life. If they grew up in the woods in, backwoods of Kentucky, and they're not exposed to worldly things, all they care about is their job and their fracking job. And if you have Biden saying, I'm going to take your fracking job away, they don't want to hear about Don Lemon saying how it's good for the environment. Do you know what I mean? They're going to be like, hey, who's going to pay? So it's, I see it from every angle and I get it and I respect it. But what I don't respect and what I will call out anyone on, and I did it 2 days ago here, and I'm not making friends very easily here because of it, because I just won't stand for it.
Yeah.
Is people pushing their beliefs on me.
Yeah.
Their opinions on me. And it's like, no. You don't have that right as a human being to push your opinions or beliefs on me,
Yeah.
because I come from a different world than you, and you come from a different world than I do. You've never jumped inside my body and have lived my life, and I've never jumped inside your body and lived your life. So it's kind of like a how dare you try and push your opinions or beliefs on me,
Yeah.
like, oh, and I'm now at the point where I'm calling out every single person that does it in a very respectful way.
Yeah.
But these people need to understand that's inappropriate and they need to be held accountable for doing that stuff.
I think you're right, and I think that's why we get along so well, because I share things from all over the map, but I never push it on any. I never say you have to believe this. You have to. I let people choose what they want to believe. If they don't want to see it, that's fine. Like, and I can see how, whoever you said, family members, friends of yours, or whatever, people naturally want you to believe what they believe, and they push it, and that happens with everybody. And I, I never would be like, hey, you believe this, don't believe that. I just kind of let things be as they be and let people make their own decisions. The problem is when people get confrontational about trying to make you believe what they believe. And I think that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, 2 days ago, I don't know if you saw my tweet, but I joined a Pilates studio here in Atlanta, and they knew I was coming from California, and they knew I was a Pilates instructor in California. And I walked in, the owner was there, and she was pleasant, and she, said, "Oh, another instructor, that's great. Are you looking to possibly, instruct? We'd love to have you." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I have my own business and I'm working on building that." And she said, "Well, we welcome you to Georgia. Just don't vote. We like things the way they are here. Just don't vote."
now, why would she say that? I mean,
And I'm like,
it's like, I mean,
now, Geoff, this is the second person that's said that to me here.
I
The
can't
first
believe she
person,
would say that. Like,
well, it's
she really,
the
she,
most, I
she really said that to you.
she said it deadpan, and I'm like, is this what, how welcoming this is a national franchised company, Club Pilates,
Yeah.
and that face you're putting in front, she's the owner of that franchise. That's so, of course, I wrote, I didn't say anything to her because I was like, oh, you're okay. It's the second person that's told me that here. So she emailed me yesterday or 2 days ago and was like, "Hey, I'm reaching out. Wanted to see if you could send me your Pilates certification, so maybe you could teach. Would love to have you." My response, and we can post it after this so that people understand that you can hold people accountable in very, very respectful ways,
Yeah.
where you're not degrading them, you are not angry, you take the emotion out completely and say, "Look, it's inappropriate. It's shameful that from a woman to tell another woman not to vote, knowing how long it took us to have that right." I mean, it's just, and it was a very cut and dry. This is why I felt very unwelcomed. Obviously, I told her in the email, like, "I'm sure you probably understand why I would feel a little unwelcomed like that." And I told her, I'm like, "Look, the reason why I'm writing you all this is because we all have an opportunity to grow. And I hope that this allows you to take a pause in your own life and realize that your words have an impact, and we all can do better. And I hope that you make better decisions tomorrow." And that was it. She never replied back. Club Pilates corporate knows about it. I've made them fully aware.
It's good.
And what do you say to that? Do you know what I mean? I was very respectful. It's just like, you know, think about the things that you're telling people. Like, how dare you tell someone not to vote?
Yeah.
That's voter suppression. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
So, and I've gotten to a point personally where normally I would just smile and walk away, but we've done that for too long all of us. We've all smiled and walked away when someone has said something really, really inappropriate and
Mm-hmm.
just allowed them to continue. And the problem is that person will do it again to someone else. And it
Yeah.
fuels this like animosity, negative environment that we're in. And I'm like, look, if I can cut certain people from doing things like that, it'll stop that negativity. And it starts with all of us, you know? And that's the first time in my life that I have ever stood up and said, no, you cannot say things like that in a very respectful way, you know? And I've never attacked anyone. I've never sent emails like that in my life. That was my first one. And
I think
I
you
don't
did
think
the
she'll
right
ever,
thing.
well, and I don't think she'll ever do it again.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and I think you can actually, you know, you see people reply to others, you know, during live feeds and stuff of like the news, and you see this back and forth, and everyone's, you know, trolling everyone. There are ways to talk to people in a respectful way and tell them, no, that's inappropriate. You cannot say things like that, you
Yeah.
know? And I think if we all can learn how to do that, it will shape the world in a very different way.
I think that's what we need, and I think that your just what your experience there is a great metaphor for just what's happening overall. And I think it's good you direct, and I think just because who's she to tell you not to vote? It's just not. That's the problem. That's the whole a big part of everything that's happening right now. And I think it's good you address that, and I think it's a good story slash metaphor for just what's happening overall. Is people are just invading each other's rights to how they think and believe, and they're telling them what to do and what to think instead of letting people do that. And so I completely agree with you there, and have your back on it. So I think you did the right thing, Kira. So Kira's story is a good lesson for all out there. People, we need to work on that, and hopefully through this show and just what we're doing, we can just keep giving our own perspective on things and let people believe how they believe and think and do, and hopefully eventually get to a better world. So I think that's a great metaphor for things. I think we can wrap it up there for today, but um, let's keep at this. We'll keep at this, and let's try to make the world better. And each week, come back here and share. And we've got some people in here today. We're gonna start posting on more networks starting next week on Facebook. We're still getting them all booted up, but it's been a process doing this. And Kira, I always love it here and love seeing them. Anything else you want to say on that? Or
No, I just wish everyone a great rest of the week, and then we will talk to you guys next week.
here at Geoff and Kira Live, we're the future, and the future is Geoff and Kira Live. Thank you guys. Episode 52. I'm gonna sign off. We will be back next week, 2:00. We'll try to be on time next week. Always a little late, but we're getting there. We are getting there. We'll see you next week, episode 52. Bye, Kira.
Bye.
Later.